Hey everyone, and good morning, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. Happy Tuesday. It is January 16th. We're at the middle of the month, at the first month of the year. So I'm trying to find us on here, and I haven't found us just yet. Why is it showing us yet?
I just sent it to her. Oh, you're on the show.
I do believe I put us correctly, so I don't know why we're not there. All right. Anyway, I'll figure it out. So good morning, everyone. Oh, that's why, because they're having trouble with Facebook again. So hold on. Let me fix this. So for those of you that are on YouTube, we really appreciate it. Let me just get Facebook off and running. Whatever. Okay. And we'll start this again. All right, we'll try it again. Frank is sending me text messages while I'm on.
Yeah, he didn't know we started.
I'll look at it later, Frank.
He said she'll look at it later, Frank.
All right, here we go. So good morning, everyone. We are back on Facebook. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. Hey, we want to say good morning to Kathy Reese. She was the first one on from YouTube. We also want to say good morning to Nina Perez. Straight Talk with Nina. Straight Talk with you got rid of the no sugar added. I loved that piece of it, but you know, if you change the name, that's cool. If you didn't, great, you could just let us know. But Happy New Year. Good morning to you, and good morning, everyone. I am Lori Monaco, the Badass Buddha, coming to you from Eastern Tennessee, and we got snow. I left the Northeast, so I didn't have to deal with snow, and we got snow anyway. We didn't get that much, but it kind of still stops everything over here. So, and it's pretty wet out, but it did stop snowing. But the next couple of days, it's supposed to be like our overnight tonight is supposed to be like 9 degrees and then 5 degrees the next night. So it's going to be pretty crazy. So good morning. Good morning, Gladiator Guru.
Good morning, Badass. Good morning, Nina and Kathy. And here I am from Connecticut. And it is snowing. It's been snowing since last night. Now it's like ice falling. But you know what? I love it. Yesterday I was saying when it's really hot, we're complaining. Oh my God, it's so hot. You can't do nothing. Then when it's cold, you complain. And just got to ride the flow. Buckle up. That's it.
Buckle up, Buttercup, just like you always say, right?
And good morning.
And it's true. You know what we do? We have a tendency to complain. I'm not complaining. I mean, I'm happy. I'm very grateful that I work from the house right now. I don't have to commute in this. I saw my next door neighbor getting up. She's a nurse, and I really don't know why people don't have. If there's ever a potential to have snow, I never could figure out why people don't have a 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive vehicle available to them. But not that it matters with ice, because the rubber tires and 4-wheel drive doesn't matter with ice. But she was up early at like 6 this morning warming up her car, and she left. So I'm grateful that I don't have to go anywhere. My daughter's school got canceled. It's nice and warm in the house. It's comfortable. And, the overnight temperatures that we're going to have the next few nights, I'm worried because, you never know. They're pretty low, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that it's endurance. It teaches you so much, especially when you're in the 4 seasons. It just teaches you tolerance, I think. And I think most of us really need some of it needed, like the weather, to be forced upon us in order for us to grow in that area. But I think if you're willing to just say, oh, it's snowing, oh, it's raining, oh, it's hot, then we can ride it. But let me tell you, we all complain. I mean, I don't think there's a human that doesn't complain about either or. But even throughout the complaining, we deal with it. And I think that's what we forget, that strength of ours of dealing with it. I think sometimes we just want to hear our own voice. Good morning, Tiffany. Good morning, Desiree.
Good morning, Tiffany and Desiree. I think it is. It's our resilience. It's our, we do. It's like, we kind of say, oh, we kind of wanted it to be this way or that way. But when we take those moments though to say like today doesn't really matter. Like if you're really not going anywhere and it is the weather's not great, then take a moment to be grateful for the fact that you don't have to go anywhere. You know, that like, okay, it's cold out and it's miserable out there. Like we could say all these things, but you're inside and it's warm, and not everybody has that luxury, you know, and not everybody has the luxury of, if they had to get out, like could they get out, you know? So we just have to stop and say, you know what, okay, I might not be thrilled about what's going on outside, the weather, but what can I be grateful for? You know, I was disappointed because, you know, I didn't really think about it. I was like, you know, I was anticipating no snow. So I was hell bent to like leave all the snow stuff behind. You know, I mean, I took boots and stuff, but my daughter had a couple of sleds, and I think I gave them to somebody. And she said to me, "Mom, don't you have a sled? Because we have a nice hill." I mean, and I'm like, "No, I didn't pack them. You know, I didn't with." And it would have been a good day for it because it was icy. You know, so she would have had some good sled time.
Yeah, and again, when little kids think of stuff like that, I just think that we get so passive and too closed up into what we expect. Again, that's a whole other conversation, expectations. But I think just going with the flow, that little line right there means the world when you're faced with something. So I think we're stronger than we believe we are. We're more resilient than we know we are. And it isn't until something happens that we're like, oh, I survived it. And then instead of talking about what happened, we can talk about how strong we are, which leads us into what today is.
Yes.
And
Which is today is, what do I think of me? Right. And this is really important because we've been building you up to this, and we wanted you to ask yourself that question. It's like, what do I think of myself? And if your answers, they don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have to be positive all the time. Like, I'm fantastic, I'm this. Because if you don't think you are, then the main phrase comes into play is then you're lying to yourself. So what we're asking you is, what do I think of me? And it's to be honest. This way you can decide where you are at this point. So if I think I am this, this, and that, and some of it's good and there's a few bad things or a few negative things, then it's honest. You're not lying to yourself. And now you have to decide, what am I going to do about those other pieces? You know, do I need to fix those? You know, like, if I say to myself, like, what do I think of me? I think I'm a badass. I think I'm courageous. I think I'm unapologetically courageous. I think I'm kind. I think I could be an asshole. Is there anything that I want to work on? And I think it's more along the lines of defining asshole for myself. You know, like, there's good asshole and then there's bad asshole. And I'm still working on the bad asshole pieces of myself. And that's, but it's an awareness. It's truth, not lying to yourself, awareness, and then decision. You know, okay, I'm accepting this, I'm acknowledging this, I'm accepting this, I'm going to take accountability for it, and then what am I going to do next? It's everything that we did the month of January last year when we talked about awareness, and the first quarter. I mean, we talked about awareness, we talked about acknowledging and accepting, and then accountability. That was January, February, March of last year. Time goes by fast, doesn't it?
really fast. And so, yeah, you want, oh, I don't know where she went. We're going to do the mantra, but I think that we are the balance of the positive and the negative. I think that's what creates what we are. What do I think I am? I can think that I'm the most peaceful, loving, kind Buddha relic that there is in the world. But quite frankly, I'm joy and rage. You know, I'm kindness and I'm sarcastic. You know, I'm just grief stricken, but I am totally grateful. So I think when I identify to what I truly am, it makes it easier for me to control the parts that are not so much, and then to not overdo the good parts, because we fall into a thing where we overexert ourselves with kindness because we want people to just to think that we are like this kindness. And then if we convinced ourselves, knowing that we can be rageful, I'm both of everything. I am this and I am the balance of whatever topic we're talking about. And I'm okay with that. Just like when I say that, when Iris would tell everyone I'm an artist, and sometimes I would cringe because they would ask to see it. But and you're right, badass. There are days when I can say, oh my God, look at this painting. I love it. And then I can do another one and I'm like, oh, where did that come from? And then that's the first one everybody compliments. So sometimes we do think the worst of what we do and who we are, and we have to find the balance within ourselves in order to be balanced out in the world. So what do I think I am? The main thing of what I think I am not what you think of me. That's what I think I am.
That's
I am
interesting.
I am totally Margarita, and Margarita comes in many waves. And identify it just like I identify my personalities, to the point where they each have their own name. And other people might think that's crazy and they ignore that and whatever. But I think that when you come to a place of loving yourself unconditionally, that right after that sentence is, I also have things to work on. So, what do I think I am? I am a woman who has faced many challenges and accepted many blessings, and have come to grow into the person that I will learn and try to better myself until my last breath. I'm never going to get it right, because the world keeps flowing. Every day there's a different flow in a different direction. And it's really up to us to say, I don't want to go down that path today. And then identify why you don't want to go down. Is that a path you have to take? And if it's not, why don't you want to go? Is it fear? Is it guilt of who you might encounter on that path? Do you want to stay away from people that you know you need to apologize, or who need to apologize? You feel you need to apologize, and come to the conclusion that, you know what, if I'm okay with my life and my pain and my scars, then I have to forgive myself for holding on to it and not live my life with the expectation is, when are they going to apologize? So what do I think I am? I think I'm fabulous. When people say, how are you? I'm awesome. When people say, ¿cómo está? De maravilla. Why? Because I need to believe that about myself. And then when I say that, I know there's things I need to work on. Aggravation, like if I'm like somewhere and someone asks me to repeat the same thing I said 3 times, of course I'm going to be like, what the hell? And I need to know. Again, like what I said last year, just smile. I never did let the little things bother me and think it, but smile, because that smile, it does something to your spirit right in that moment. So, what do I think I am? I think I am a woman.
No, what do you think of yourself?
What do I think?
Not what you think you are. What do you
What
think?
do I think I am? Right? Isn't that the title?
What do I think of me? I
Oh,
guess it's I am. I guess you could say that. I think it's
oh.
more of, it's not just I am. Yeah, no, I guess you're right. But
Well,
it's, how do you also feel about yourself too?
I'm strong, yet I am vulnerable. I am both sides of the spectrum. And somewhere during the day, I meet myself in the middle. And I'm going to forgive myself every evening for not doing something correctly, not saying something kind, because when I arise the next day, I am grateful that I have the opportunity to complete what I didn't follow through on yesterday. So for the most part, I think, what do I think I am? Today, someone who's not going to waste time anymore. With the death of my son's father, with the death of my husband, how they woke up and that was it. Did they wake up? It just teaches you that what I am is not a waste of time. Who do I think I am? Somebody who deserves to make the best of their time. And time management has never been anything good in my life. I don't know about you, Badass. I think you're better than me in this, but I'm going to work on it to the point where I even said the other day, but don't tell nobody, I'm working on being on time.
Uh-oh.
But on
The
time,
universe is shifting.
on time, but not by the tick-tock of your clock, but on time for me.
Right.
And
But that's always been the so that's really actually not different than what you've done.
no, meaning if we have to be somewhere at 5, there's people like, well, I'll be there. I'll meet you there at 4:45. No, I'm going to be there at 4:49 because I'm 4:59 because I'm still working on it. But that's what I mean. I want to be on time for me, really, if anything, if that makes any sense. I want to be on time to show myself that I can be better than I was yesterday.
Well, and I think that's when you're at, so ask yourself this, and put it in the comments. What do you think of yourself? You know, what do I think of me? I think that I'm a continuous work in progress. I think that I'm a very good educator. Like I'm definitely a great teacher. I have great vision. When you were talking about wasting time, I think I have a habit of wasting time. You know, like I go in spurts. I could be extremely driven and nonstop and going. And then all of a sudden I get to this period where I just don't want to do anything and I have no motivation, no direction. And it's like I need what I think of me is that I think I'm a person that sometimes needs a backup person. I need a person that will kick me in the ass and say, all right, you know, you said you were doing this, like kind of accountability partner. I think I'm very capable. And I think that I'm a pretty cool person. And so I think that when people when people don't really know me, or they've had only certain types of what's the word I'm looking for? I think if people who haven't got to know me or have only had minimal time with me, and if they don't like me, it's I mean, I don't need anybody to like me. I'm just saying that if they think I'm a certain way, I know what I am. And if it contradicts what they think, of course, the other people's opinions of us are none of our business, you know. But I've learned to let go of it and not worry about it. So that's another thing is I think what I think of me is that I've definitely grown over the last few years of letting go. Although I'm still working on that one. Letting go is there's levels, but it's about knowing myself, you know. Good morning to Madeline. She popped on. Bridget is on. Lindy is on. Let's see who else is on. Priscilla, my friend, and Flavia, my friends. Good morning, everyone. So we're asking is, what do you think of yourself? If you want to be so bold as to put that in there, what do you think of yourself? And Madeline says it, you know, you're human. We're all subject to those ebbs and flows of energy. Of course, you know, and that's the beauty is what I think of myself is I know that. You know, it's what do we think of ourselves as? Do we put ourselves at a high regard? You know, if you think of yourself as worth it, if you think of yourself within a high regard, then you make more effort. You know what I mean? It's when a person believes that they're not worth it, when they think of themselves as less than, then that's all that they will expect in their life. And that's all they believe that they deserve. And then that will teach people how to treat them, what to think about them. And so it's important for us to really be, you know, to really, first off, that right there, we're going to tell you that's a lie that you say to yourself. Everybody's worth it. Every single person. It's just that some people think they're worth it more than others. And then there's some people that feel entitled. So has to be this middle ground of I'm worth it. I know I'm worth it. I like to say that I'm worth it, but and not at the expense of another person, like manipulation in other words. Like I'm not going to do something for myself and get somewhere and manipulate somebody to get them to do it for me, or so that I don't have to do it. That I know for sure. And I know that I don't want to be around people that do that. And I had a time in my life where I was that person too. And I didn't think highly of myself. That's the irony, is that when I was that person, I didn't think highly of myself, which is probably why I was so manipulative. But now I'm like, I don't need to do things like that. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm worth. And I'm going to move forward and align with people that align with what my beliefs are and what I think.
And with me, it was the opposite. See, if I didn't like something, I didn't do it. If I didn't want to be in a relationship, I expressed it, and then I packed up and walked away. And sometimes that hinders you as well, because it's not the arrogance, it's the confidence in saying, I don't want this anymore. But there's people like my kids that will suffer the consequences of my choices. So, you come into maturity, into an age where you're like, wow, I did that. There's no going back. You explain it. And on top of the confidence, it was also a no nonsense attitude. Like, I don't need to take this shit. And I walked away 3 times, and 3 times left fully furnished apartments. One of them was 10 years in the making of collecting antiques. Just left it because I always felt that I'm not going to die a little every day because I'm somewhere I don't want to be, or because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And the opposite side of that, the children did have some kind of, well, they did. They told me how.
Be careful.
years later-
Your microphone keeps rubbing up against, I think, your earring in your shirt. So it keeps
let me put it up here.
And then sometimes we don't hear you. We don't hear you very well.
So I think that,
Oh, that's better.
there's a modicum of choices, self-choices we have to make.
That's a good word. Say that again.
A modicum of self-choices we make where we do have to, consider, especially the children and everything. But if I were to look back now, I could tell you I don't regret the choices I've made for me. Unfortunately, when we make choices for ourselves, that's the only responsibility we have first and foremost, there are people who will be hurt and it will affect them in some kind of way. I say that when we make those kind of choices, which I didn't have a mentor in my life back then, I just knew what I wanted and didn't want to deal with from an early age. Had I had a mentor, I would have done things differently. It's conversations. And after you have the conversations, then I ask, did they comprehend? Because people think that the most important is having the conversations, but it's the comprehension of the conversations. You might talk because you know what you're saying, but are they understanding what you're saying, especially when they're children or people who've never walked the path that you're on or that you have walked? So I think that knowing who you are is sometimes you do have to explain yourself to others, because people would never consider doing what you're doing or what you're planning on doing. And that's okay, because we're all molded differently. And that's the beauty of when we come together, right? The sharing and the understanding and learning from one another. But never cut yourself short. Never cheat yourself. Because like wasting time, and you said the same thing, Badass, taking a day to rest when you feel exhausted, when your feet feel like they have lead in them, it's okay to take that day to rest and binge watch and sleep. Just that day, have your vibrations rise and your energy be okay with facing whatever's coming the next day. Go ahead, Badass.
I love that you said you don't have to explain yourself to anybody, but sometimes you do. And I'm glad you brought this up, because we hear this a lot in personal development and we've said it. We've said you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. We even had a show on that. But there is a further explanation. What we're talking about is, because that's what we're talking about. What do I think of me? Other people's opinion of you are none of your business. Don't share your vision with people who have no vision, for themselves. What we're saying is that you don't have to explain yourself to people who don't matter, people that are, especially adults, that you don't have to explain things to. That's why when we say people who mind don't matter, but people who don't mind matter. And the thing is that if a person means something to you, and you mean something to them, then it's a respect thing to explain to them because you have a relationship with them. When it comes to children, it's like you want them to at least have an understanding of why you're doing what you do, especially when it's hurting them or it's upsetting them. And I remember when I decided to move, and I started to lay the groundwork for that. And I kept saying to the kids, I cannot be in Connecticut anymore. Like, I've got to get out of here. And I kept just sort of laying it down there. I didn't say, we have to go. You're going to have to go there no matter what, blah, blah, blah. I sat and I took the compassion road, which sometimes is easy for me and sometimes it's not so easy for me. But I would explain to them, and especially the younger one, you have to go to another school. You have to, and she didn't want to go to another school. And then she would say, I want to be homeschooled. And I'd say, I can't really homeschool you yet. I'm just not in that capacity. But plus I wanted her to meet people. But little by little, they started to understand. I didn't, like, I looked at it thinking in a way of saying that, in my opinion, being straightforward, especially with your children, is very courageous. Hearing their opinions, even if it's not something that you don't want to hear, is very courageous. They have a right, especially when they're under a certain age, because it's affecting them and you're going to be taking them or not. Some people are just like, I've got to go. Especially that needs an explanation. For somebody to just up and leave with no explanation, or even worse, not even telling them, that right there is a completely different set of, to me, that's just, that's coward. It's a cowardice thing to do, because they have something to contribute and it affects them. But even your adult children, the differences with your adult children is they're in their own lives. And if their lives are so entwined with yours that if you leave, they're going to fall apart, then we as parents didn't do our jobs correctly. And I've had to face that with my 20-year-old, where there was so much that I really messed up with her, with raising her. And we've talked about this openly, and she's sort of finally getting her footing. And I said, the problem is I can't go back and change and do things differently. All I can do is just, what we could do, both of us, is learn from it and then move forward. And I will be here for you. And she's getting to the point now where she really wants to go. She just wants to spread those wings and fly. I mean, she's talking like long term. She's like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 4 years, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is great. A little part of me is like, man, I'm going to miss her. But I said to her, no matter where you go, you'll always have a place. You'll always have a bed. You'll always have a place to store your stuff, because my house is always going to be your house. And you could stay as long or as short as you want to. But I love that you want to go. And so again, as everybody's been saying here, it takes time. I think it was Madeline that says it takes years to create a masterpiece. We are works in progress. And it is. It's like every day we think we know, and then we learn something else about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, the underlying piece is never lying to yourself. If it means
Never. And you said something. It's people who mind don't matter, and people who matter don't mind. And that's the tribe you got to go on. But let me tell you something. You said something. The choices that I made back then, I made them, although they didn't understand, for them, because I don't think children should be raised where there's constant arguing and disrespectfulness of one another. But I also believe and because of the way I was raised, and I'm pretty fucking awesome in any situation that I come into play with. But I was very, very adamant that my children had to face adversity at young ages so they could know when I'm not around how to deal through it,
Sure.
how to handle it. you look now at this generation and it's so full of sensitive people because everybody just wants to talk. Well, let's talk about it. Well, sometimes, no, you got to throw them in the deep end of the pool
Yeah.
and let them know they got to swim to
Yeah.
the other side or learn how to hold their breath. And I say that because I did that to my daughter. And to this day, she says I still tried to kill her, but she learned how to swim. And that's the bottom line. And that's just how I handle life. I just go in and you learn as you go. Just like when I love to walk in the dark places so that I can hone in on my listening and my feeling, and instead of walking by sight, so my kids are who they are today, and they handle everything the way they handle because they had no choice where they had to sit there and overthink it and allow fear to set in. And you know what? It can be hard, and not everybody agrees with what I did, but I got some pretty strong kids. And like every other kid, they have flaws, but for the most part, they know how to handle their stuff. And I'll take attribute to that, even the flaws that they have, because my decisions weren't always the best, but they learned from it. And I think that's how we go through life. Who makes the best decisions in every scenario? No, you make decisions, and then wherever the chip falls, you learn how to pick up the pieces and create your masterpiece. And then you move on to the next project, because that's what life is about, is moving on to the next project. It's not about learning something and then just basking in it the rest of your life. So, hey, brother.
Growth.
So I'm thinking, hey, Lucy. So I'm thinking that I believe, and I've said it many times before about who I am. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. My children are not my decisions, but what they learned from it and chose to become.
Yes.
And I've always been a strong-willed individual. Everywhere I stand, I walk in the room, I'm here, what's up? And my kids have learned to follow suit. They'll walk into any place ahead, like by themselves. They don't care. I'm here. And I could be 5 steps behind, but they're not going to wait for me at the doorway. They know I'm coming. And they'll go in and they'll face whatever they have to face. And some things might be a little tougher for us to deal with head on, and other things aren't. And that's where you've got to love yourself and understand that you do have the courage and the strength even to look at something and then say, what do I do? You might take a bit longer in making the decision of how to handle it, but you're looking at the situation. You're holding the situation. You're feeling the situation. And some people might have to do a couple laps around that field before they get it. And some people are halfway around before they're like, okay, this is what I'm doing regardless.
Yes. Sometimes more than a couple of laps.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's what's so beautiful about us humans, is not having expectations of one another, not even on ourselves, not limiting ourselves to our hindering beliefs that we can't or we shouldn't or that's not right, but of feeling it and then attempting it. And everything we try to do, it's not going to be a success. But even that failure, you're going to look back on it and say, oh my God, I'm so happy I tried that. And it was epic failure, but now I know what not to do. Everything is a learning moment. And every learning, whether it's success or failure, you're up another step and you're up another step. And that's who you have to understand who you are. You're not a quitter and you're not paralyzed by fear. And if you are and you still take that step, you're the bravest person I know. And that's how we have to look at what we do. I didn't finish it, but damn, I started it. And it was hard for me to even get started on that. And then to whatever, let's say you're writing or you're painting or you're doing a speaking video. It was hard to start it, right? But then the courage it took you to share it with somebody. And be open to the constructive criticism with no expectations that you believe you did so good, you're going to deserve compliments. And I think that's what makes you who you are. Because I read something and it says, real quick, badass, hold on. And I loved it. And it says, I am strong because I know my weakness. I am beautiful because I am aware of my flaws. I am a lover because I have felt hate. I am wise because I learned from my mistakes. And I can laugh because I have felt sadness. That is what makes us.
I
That
love
is
that.
that is the walking, not tipping or hiding or burying one side of the spectrum from the other. That is being on the good side, looking across, say, "Ooh, I know I might fuck up tomorrow, but today I'm gonna bask in my awesomeness." And trying your hard not to do, but when we feel we fail, that's when we learn a little bit more about ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's the
Hola,
key.
Milagro.
That's
Go
the
ahead.
key. If it's not, it's just like, remember, you know how I feel about the word mistake. I was talking again to my kid about this. Um, I think there's very few mistakes in the world. Most of what happens is bad choice. I mean, we make bad choices. So but we could further define it as a bad choice isn't bad if we learn from it. It's bad at that moment in time, and then we have to flip it, which means that we have to acknowledge it. We have to be aware of it. We have to acknowledge it, accept it, and take accountability for it, and then do something differently. And it's not always easy. And I think that's the courageous part of it, is that you to have courage to be able to stand up and say, yeah, I really messed up. And I messed up to the point where I probably will never, ever be able to fix what I did, but I can at least make an effort and acknowledge it. I want to talk about a little bit about what you specifically said with regards to that statement about I am not what happened to me. I'm who I choose to be as a result of what I've experienced. You said it a little differently, but basically that's it. Think about this. If you say, what do I think of me? If you're asking yourself, what do I think of myself? I am not what happened to me. I am who I choose to be as a result of what I experience. So think about how you define when you say things. When this happened to me, or when he did this to me, or she did this to me, or blah, blah, blah. Now what you're throwing away your power. We've talked about this so often. You're throwing away your power. You're playing the victim role. And this is all on Madeline, because Madeline loves throwing that out there too. You're playing the victim instead of the victor. And you're saying that it's out of control, and you're a victim of your circumstances. Well, you know what? That's your choice. You're choosing to run that story. So now it's finally, like, we're here to say to you, enough already. If you're still doing that, if you're still wearing that, say to yourself, okay, what have I truly learned from this? I am not what happened to me. Do not define me as such. I am what I choose to be as a result of that experience. So am I choosing to be the victim? Am I choosing to be the victor? Or what's the other one? I'm choosing to be what's the other one, Madeline? You always say the bad guy. What's the word? It starts with a V too.
The villain.
The villain. Yes, thanks. And that happens because when something does happen to us in our lifetime, we tend to go into normal human response, which is we want to it's a normal stress response. The science nerd here. It's your fight or flight. You're either going to run away from it, which is the coward. You're good. And there's nothing wrong with running away sometimes. Sometimes you have to, but you're either going to run away from it, or you're going to fight it, or you're going to be afraid of it. And in this case, which are you playing? And sometimes the fight comes out because of what happened to you. And that's great in the beginning to build up, but you can't live in that fight mode for your whole entire life, because you'll just be angry, resentful, bitter, and you won't be able to grow. When we're talking about, we talk about vibrational energy, when we're talking about that cone of energy, it's very low on the scale. It's compressed. So you'll very few things in. You want to expand that cone of energy.
You do. And you're right. I've always been the villain in my story, because I was never a victim in anybody's. I was never even a victim to myself from all that I endured. But I always believe that I'll be the villain in your story, because it is what I am. Because why be the clown in your circus? It's just not going to happen. And you know what? I grew up hardcore, because I've always said, it's me. I'm always betting on the house. And whatever happened. But when we become victims in our own story and we hold on to the bullshit that someone else did, you have to identify with yourself why. Because the red flags were there, the sightings were there, but you let fear. And a lot of people stay in miserable relationships. Oh, because of the house, because of the kids, because of the car, because I
Because of the
worked hard to
finances.
this. And
Yep.
then those are all excuses because you are afraid to make a change because you
Right.
can't see into tomorrow, but you
Yes.
know what's in your today. And that should help you make a decision. And I think that we can be mad at everybody that has hurt us. But before you hold on to that, identify your role in what happened because it takes two. And even if you were the best wife possible or the best husband possible, you still knew it was not good and you chose to stay. So you gave permission for them to treat you the way they did.
Yes, that's so
So,
true. And
so,
that is a hard pill to swallow.
and that's
You
why I've
have
always
to
been the
admit that.
villain. And that's why when I wasn't happy or when I felt this isn't working, I walked away from the relationship. I don't care how many years I invested in it. I always bet on the house. And sometimes people got hurt because of my decisions. But I am not somebody who went through life con el ay bendito, why they do that to me, ay bendito, why that happened to me. And
Yeah.
I hear that to this day with people my age, and it makes me sad that they haven't woken the fuck up yet. Because anything and everything somebody does to you on a continual basis, you've allowed it. So before you say, well, they better apologize, they never apologized, they hurt me, they ruined me, now I have commitment issues, identify your role. And that pain or that anger or that need to know and to be forgiven diminishes more because then you realize, oh, I played this role in it. You know what? I don't even need an apology for them. And I really am not a victim. So let me pick up. Let me put my big girl panties on and move forward. And a lot of people don't like when I say that, but then that again, that is not my issue. I'm calling out reality. So when you decide to identify your role in any bad scenario, it lessens the blow of what really happened because in order for somebody to mistreat you, you have to be present. So
Yeah.
that
You
was
have
your
to
role.
allow it. Yep.
Get your ass away and out and start a whole different chapter.
Yep.
Skip those chapters and go on to the last one and make your life exactly what you know you can make of it. Learn what you need to learn, add it, adapt new attitudes and move forward.
Yep.
And I think that when we can do that, then you can say, this is who the fuck I am. This is who I'm gonna be. This is what I will and will not tolerate. And at the end of the day, saying, you know what, Margie, you went a little too far today. Or I'm okay with what happened today. The scenario will play itself out. And if not, it's okay. Because life is about learning who is to be in your VIP section and who needs to
Yes.
be in the nosebleed section.
Yes.
And sometimes when you have these
Or doesn't
deep
even get a ticket
conversations,
to the
or
stadium.
doesn't even, yeah, they're in the parking lot, way in the west side. And so when you're real with somebody, when you express, I'm not going to tolerate this and this will not continue to happen in my life. No, thank you, fuck you, whatever it is. And that person gets hurt and they don't want to talk to you. Look at it as a blessing. As your guardian angel saying, you need to cut that soul tie. And sometimes it's just you being honest with yourself and that honesty ringing through very loudly to them that they no longer have that control over you. They're going to get ugly. They might get violent. They'll spread rumors about you, all of that. But that is just the season in your life where those people need to be shaved away from you.
Yep.
Respect yourself. Respect your decisions, respect your opinions. And how you do that? When it's coming from within, not because somebody's like, oh, you should tell them off. When it comes from within, you know what's right for you. But
That's
you got
right.
to know, even if you're in the process of really garnering that strength and that courage, you still know who you are. Don't second guess yourself. Indecisiveness will always lead you to step in shit.
And the only way to know who you are is to check in with yourself on a regular basis. Am I moving forward? Am I representing the person that I choose to be? Because that's the thing, is you choose to be the person. And it is all about being honest with yourself, not lying. Because if you say, well, I'm a nice person and I'm, and I don't talk about other people and I hold people's confidences, and then you turn around and you talk about people and you don't hold confidences, then you're lying to yourself. And that's the energy that you're going to put out there. But you have to check in with yourself. Am I becoming the best version of myself every single day? And if not, why not? When we stay stuck in certain emotions, and what Gladiator Guru always talks about is, emotions come to you to go through you. When we stay stuck, it keeps us it's like putting blinders on. It keeps us from seeing other things. So if you're angry all the time, you won't see certain things. If you're really kind and a people pleaser, you won't see certain things. If you're afraid, you won't see certain things. So all of those are real emotions. We all feel them from time to time. Like, you could be the kindest, nicest person and you could be very aware of your boundaries, but somebody's going to piss you off. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the thing. It's just to me, it's a reassurance of saying, okay, what is that telling me? What lesson am I learning here? And it doesn't have to always be a lesson. Like if you're hearing a story and you hear somebody, like, I cringe when somebody's boundaries are, when somebody's letting their boundaries, or somebody's trying to step on somebody's boundaries. I get mad, and I get mad because that's a big thing for me. And I don't like when people do that. And I want people to be strong and stand up for themselves. So I have to look at it and say, what does that mean to me? What do I do going forward with that? And okay, calm it down, because holding that anger because I don't agree with it or because it's triggering. I know how Gladiator Guru loves that one. But it's bringing up something for me. Okay, but I have to let it pass, because if I stay in that state of anger and frustration, or if it's done to me, then I have to say, okay, then I need to do better. Because if I'm mad that it's just like I froze for a second. It's just like the idea of, if you've ever been robbed, like if you've ever been, your house is broken into, your car is broken into, you feel very violated, you feel very angry because somebody had the nerve to come into your space and take your stuff. It's probably the most incredible, in your face understanding of boundaries, right? Because we can invite people in and people could shit on us and do all kinds of stuff to us, but we invited them in and then we make excuses. But if somebody you don't know breaks into your house or into your car and takes something, we're pissed. We're like upset. Sometimes it can evoke fear, sometimes anger, sometimes a lot of stuff, but it's that violated feeling. And then what do we do with that? We don't just sit there and take it and we say, well, I'm upset about this, but it's going to pass and that's it. It's no, you put an alarm on your car, you put cameras on your house. Like it's take action. So it's up to us to really, again, constantly check in with ourselves. What's important to us? How do we want to live our lives? What can I do better? What can I learn more about myself? And then what can I do going forward? And I quickly want to mention something about Kathy. Kathy has been with us for a while now, and Kathy went through a little, like a hiatus. She went off of social media. She stopped coming to the show. She had told us ahead of time that she was going to be dropping off for a while. There were some things that had happened and were going on. Personally, a lot of it was growth. And the beauty is that one thing I have noticed, and Gladiator Guru and I both have noticed this, we were talking about it, since Kathy's been back on, you could see the difference in Kathy. It's by her statements. Kathy finally got to a level where she doesn't give a rat's ass about what anybody else thinks. She's going to do what's right for her. And it's all about her being happy in her life, enjoying her life as a mom, a grandmother, a wife. And it's so beautiful to see this. It's so beautiful to see her posts. It's like it's a completely different person. And it's not a different person. It's just the person that was always there. It's just, we get locked in by wounds and people, and we allow that to happen. So enough already. How many years have to pass before we unlock who we really are?
She gave herself permission.
Yes.
To show up for herself, and that's beautiful. And you said something earlier, stand in your truth and own your power, Madeline. And that's something that I write all about, is sit in your peace and invite your power back. And it's not about action all the time. And when you learn how to be vulnerable, and I'm speaking for myself, you learn to really listen, and you're not on survival mode all the time. And be still and listen. That's what you have to do. And I'm not sure that, but look at how beautiful. Be still and listen. And sometimes when you look at something pretty, have a corner in your bedroom, set it up, even if it's just a corner, as your sanctuary. So when you're not feeling well, when you're feeling like you've lost everything, you don't understand who you are, you can't continue with this or that, sit in your sanctuary, sit in that peace, and remind yourself who you are. If you cannot do that for yourself, please do not have expectations of others fulfilling that, because that's where we keep going down the rabbit hole. Take accountability. Identify your role in anything that's making you uncomfortable. Why is this making me uncomfortable? What am I participating in? What am I inviting in? And then you can find some balance, because until your last breath, you can make a last minute change, a plan change. You can just say, I'm out. Because it's totally up to you. You are your power.
Yes, you are.
And we need to remind ourselves that we are our power. Me, it's Yahweh, me, then everybody else. But then you stop the blame game, and you stop the victimization, and you stop expecting people to apologize or to text you first or to call you first. What the fuck is that? Have you spoken to someone? No, it's been 4 weeks and they haven't even returned my text. Well, everybody's going through something, whether they want to talk about it or not. Sometimes you can call somebody out the blue, you're saving their lives.
Yeah.
So what is that assumption that, well, I already reached out, now I'm going to wait for them to reach out? No, reach out because you want to, because you can.
Right. And if it's pressing, like if you are really do need an answer from them and they aren't responding, then send that or call them and then say, hey, listen, please, you might be going through some stuff, but if there's any way that you could answer what I'm asking you? And if they don't, then maybe something is going on. Maybe they don't want to talk to you. Whatever it is, it's just you have to. One thing I've learned is that if I require an answer from somebody and I'm not getting it, I have to have an alternative. Like I have to have a second, third, fourth choice, because if I'm planning on something, I'm not hearing the answer from somebody, then I will send them a text, say, listen, I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway, because whether I hear from you or not, accept the consequences of the inaction. In other words, if we were planning on going somewhere and I have to purchase tickets, then I'm going to go ahead and purchase my ticket. And if you still want to go, that's going to be on you. But I also, and here's the interesting thing is, as you shift and you put out a different energy, that doesn't happen all that often when somebody doesn't get back. It's almost like when you're in the other energy, that happens all the time. People don't get back to you. So for now, it's like you just move on. It's like I've learned it's not that I don't rely on people. It's just I rely on myself first. And then I put it out there and I give a timeline. Hey, listen, I need to know by this time or else I'm going to assume that you don't want it. I'll give a reminder, because sometimes people don't get messages. But I'm so happy you said what you said, because that was a great segue into Thursday's show, which is I Got the Power. And so that's why we're talking about this today is what do I think of me? And then it's about talking about power.
Yes. Let me tell you something. A lot of us will do exactly what you said, Badass, because we're indecisive. And we'll prevent ourselves from doing something. Well, but they never got back to me, so I missed that opportunity. And what you said was so important. Do the initial contact, then do a reminder. When you're doing the reminder, say, okay, if they don't respond in 24 hours, I'm gonna go ahead with it. I'm just gonna have to tweak
but
it
tell them
to
that.
1%.
Don't be passive aggressive and be like, well, I'm gonna let them guess. You say that, listen, please let me know by this time.
But no, what I'm saying is, it's not about telling somebody. It's about reminding yourself to be decisive. A lot of us use that as an excuse not to go forward with whatever the plan was. Oh, because they didn't show up, because they didn't call me. Now I missed this opportunity. And the hard reality, mi gente, is you fucked up. Because if they didn't show up and it was important, you move forward with it. And you tweak it as you're going along until you if it's a 2-man job, you begin it, you tweak it. Okay, this is what I can do right now. And then you either reinvite someone else, or they'll show up talking about whatever. My phone fell in the toilet last night. I'm sorry. Things happen. And that's what I'm learning now, not to be so hard. Because I'm a person, if I ask you once, it brought me a lot of trouble, especially with my ex who just passed away. I ask you once. Okay, I'll do it next weekend. Okay, next weekend comes. I don't see no movement. Hey, are we going to paint the room? Yeah. I'm going to do a couple things. Now we're in Monday. Room's not painted. Guess what? I hired people. Next weekend, I bought pizza and beer for my brothers. They painted the room. He comes home. He's like, that's embarrassing. No. I asked you once. I asked you twice.
That's right.
And I've done that all my life. Ask my kids. I'm going to ask them once. I'm going to ask them twice. And then they're out. And I'm doing it. And, it made me a lonely person sometimes. You're going to have to deal with the outcomes of your decisions. But you bask in the beauty that it was your decision. And that's growth. And that's self-trust. And that's the cultivation of all things self. And even if it's just new to you, you're still, you know what? You're needing that what is it? The dirt. What is it called when you're building a garden? You're starting it.
Cultivating,
you're messing around in the dirt to put the seed in.
Getting it ready, preparing
and then you will, at the end, after all the hard work, after all the pain and fear and sacrifice that you put into something you believed in, you will enjoy the harvest. But let me tell you, mi gente, if you don't step up to the plate, no one's going to push you there. No one's going to shine a flashlight there. You have to abandon the indecisiveness because of fear or insecurities. You have to reconnect with that badass within you that you're going to say, oh my God, this is kind of scary, but let's do it. And take that leap of faith in your life, because only you can do that. People can only, the cliched saying that's so true in many scenarios is you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that's all that people around you are. They can guide you somewhere, but you have to take the initial step. So when you're ready for it, or if you're ready for it, let's talk about that in Thursday's episode about getting your power back. Because if not you, then who?
Right.
And if not now, then when?
If it's important to you, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse.
I love that.
And the bottom line is it's the victor, villain, victim. It's all of that. It's if you're going to keep saying, well, I told this person to do this and they didn't, and that's why I'm this. Stop.
I don't want to hear it.
Admit it to yourself. At the very least, admit it to yourself and say, yep, it's my fault. I've suffered in business, and I hate admitting this, but this is the reality. And I found that whenever I would talk about this in business development, like when I would take coaching, even at a workshop, free one, paid one, whatever. Oh, you have to stop saying that. You have to. No, the reality is I'm not good at running a business. I'm not. I just am not good at it.
Well, that's what you believe, but the reality is that your focus is on learning how to become better.
But that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this is what I think of me. I think that I can be good at business. what I know about myself is I'm great at vision. I'm great at the creative side of it. And I can run the minutia of the business. It's the in-between pieces that connect it all together. That's the part that I struggle with. And I still like want to bring people in that know how to do that have the vision, that like my vision, love my vision, and then say, "Oh, I know how to do that. I'll do," and then we build the business together so that they could be paid. I could pay them to do that, and I create this because that's where I get stuck all the time. I'll do this and I'll do this, but every time I put my energy to one thing, something else suffers. I have never been able to figure out how to put it all together. That's just not me. But once I'm focused and I work, I could be a workhorse. I could be working from 12-hour days. So for me, it's I have those realities for me. And it's about understanding myself and saying what I think of me is I think I'm very capable. I mean, I know I am. It's not even what I think. I know I'm capable. It's a matter of knowing now of what it is that I require, not just for business, but in my personal life, asking for it when it's not that obvious, because sometimes it is obvious. Sometimes there will always be people that jump in and out of the blue. They're like, "Hey, do you need this?" And you're like, "Holy crap. Yeah, I do." And then there's other times where people are just doing their own thing. And you're like, hello, like, but you have to ask. Can't expect people to read minds. And so that's the other thing is I know that if I need something, I have to ask for it. If I want something, I have to ask for it. The needs and wants, we have both. So this is what I know of myself. And what I think of myself is I think I'm the type of person that is brave enough to ask for it.
Mm-hmm. And you have to, like, I need my website built. So if anybody knows how to do that here, contact me. I need to redo my website. But you know what, Kathy, when someone from your past reaches up, I always look at it like it's just throwing monkey wrenches. When somebody pops up like slut magic, when you're about to begin a new endeavor or go on a trip or something, you got to think about that. So good for you. And yeah, well, I have to leave because the funeral is today.
Okay.
So
Yep. Well, we're sending you lots of love to you and Robert and the rest of the family. So
they just left to get
we will
ready
see you on Thursday. So thanks everybody for coming on. I Got the Power is on Thursday, and it's about controlling your emotions. Power has always been inside you, and we're going to talk about that. So from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
And mi gente, from the Gladiator Guru, remember to breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.
Bye, everybody.